Revelation from translation of the Ancient Church of the East, Book of Revelation. Translating Revelation, this is from Victor N. Alexander, the translator. Translating Revelation from the original Aramaic is one of the greatest experiences of his life. He talks about his experience in translating it. I'll skip all that. Jesus Christ's revelation of the whole mystery of the universe to John in a magnificent vision. It is a spiritual history of every essential event that has ever occurred, that is occurring now, and that will occur to the end of time. The greatest and central part of Revelation deals with Jesus Christ's ministry on earth, his crucifixion and resurrection. The ancient Church of the East was formed during the Apostolic Age. Its scribes copied the scriptures for centuries without changing it. Since it was in their native Aramaic, it never had to be translated. To this day, they have never even translated it to their current vernacular. This is the first authentic translation ever made. Victor N. Alexander states he translated directly into English so that the greatest number of people, especially Christians, may finally have access to an accurate, idiomatic and true version of the gospel. And that's what we're all about through this. His translation, right? His website was taken down, we revived it, etc., etc. And he talks about this photo here of him and his wife, taken under the cross of Olav Tryggvason, the Viking who brought Christianity to Norway in 995. The photo was taken on the island of Moster, outside of Bergen, on Pentecost Sunday 1995 during the 1000-year Jubilee of Christianity celebrations. So he travelled around the world, went to the different museums, like the Louvre in Paris and one in England, and looked at the ancient Mesopotamian artifacts, the winged bulls, etc., the cuneiform, and underneath it he found that there was the Aramaic, and he revived that ancient Aramaic, being a dead language, and translated that into English as accurately as he could, as close to those original scriptures as he could, and found that everyone else had been probably using the Syriac and botched it all, messed it all up. Some Christian missionaries going to Mesopotamia, those areas, introduced their Christianity, but what they tried to do was try to translate their King James Version that they were using at the time into Syriac and botched it. Okay, so we're trying to look at Revelation 16, right about there. Okay, this is Revelation chapter 1. Pretty much the same as the Koine Greek, but they use Aleph and Tau, not Alpha and Omega. So I'm trying to find Revelation's chapter. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm going to skip and go there, I suppose. Try and go to Okay, so what we are doing is we're going to Revelation 16:16 in the ancient Galilean Aramaic, translated into English by Aramaic speaking translator Victor N. Alexander, and compare it with the Westcott and Hort supposed Koine Greek translated into English. Compare the two. Okay, St. Luke. (16:16). Here it states, and they gathered them together into the place which is called in Hebrew Harmageddon. And the footnotes below, I believe, said Harmageddon, added in the margin, add margin, or what we sure that's short for, or Aramaic Mageddon. I don't know what this is. Yeah. Looks like American Committee or something, but I don't know. Not too sure what it is. Okay, so we're going to compare it with Galilean Aramaic. Basically says the same thing, and they gathered to that place which is called in Hebrew Armageddon. It's a difference in translation, I suppose. 18. Okay, 17, and the seventh one spilled his chalice. This is about the angel. An angel and a great voice emerged from the temple that declared, "Here it comes." And there's a footnote here. Get to that in a moment. And there was lightning and thunder and sounds, and there was a great earthquake, like there never was since there were human beings on earth. So great an earthquake there occurred, and that great city was split for the three of them, and the cities of the nations fell, and Babylon the Great was remembered before God, as it was given the cup of wine of that ferment of God's anger, etc., etc. And every island ran away, and there were no mountains to be found. And a great hail, heavy like talents, fell from the sky over humanity, and those people blasphemed against God because of the punishment of that hail, for great was its striking power. So we go back, have a look at what that supposed original Koine Greek translated into English actually says. 16:16, we've already covered that, Armageddon. And the seventh is the angel poured out his bowl upon the air, and there came forth a great voice out of the temple from the throne, saying, "It is done." Okay. And there were lightnings and voices and thunders, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since there were men upon the earth. So great an earthquake, so mighty. It's basically the same, just the wording is a little different. It's translated, part of the translator, I guess. If they're trying to get as close to the original meaning, it could mean that in the Greek, because the Greeks weren't native-born Aramaic speakers, probably didn't know about the Kitab Asheret or the Galilean Aramaic too well, so just sort of winged it, maybe, who knows what they believed it was, okay, etc., etc. Believe what it was saying, trying to say. Okay, and the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and Babylon the Great was remembered in the sight of God to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Basically the same context. Every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. In great hail, every stone about the weight of a talent cometh down out of heaven upon men, and men blaspheme God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague therefore is exceedingly great. So it's a difference in translation there. Sometimes it can't be helped unless there's an intention to put out corrupt, false transliteration or translation, deliberate mistranslation. So it's basically the same, but what does it? It doesn't really say much. Does it have footnotes at the bottom here? Yeah, it doesn't say much about it. Okay, it's not extensive, not very deep in the footnote area. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the ancient Galilean Aramaic again. That's 8. How do we get to 8? We're in the wrong one. Okay, so what's the footnote say? At the bottom here. 16. Okay, 16:16. And they gathered to that place which is called in Hebrew Armageddon. And this is what it translates as. Aramaic idiom or expression, city of defilement, or Nazi Berlin. Did do a video covering Rabbi, I think his name's Reuven, who touched on this, explained that a certain movement in the which was in Berlin, owned everything. They loaned money, but the interest rates, payback rates were too high. You couldn't buy the basics like bread, because every time we went there with a cartload of Reichsmark, or German money. In the 1920s and 30s, you couldn't buy bread because they kept increasing the inflation rate, right? So it made it impossible. And there's high rises homosexuality, prostitution, etc. Right? And that's why it became a city of defilement, as it says here, Nazi Berlin. And when this angel pours the wrath upon the earth, chalice on the air, okay, it's coming, he's poured it on the air, so whatever wrath coming from that comes from through the air. Okay? And a great voice emerged from the temple that declared, here it comes. It's the kingdom of God, probably. And there was lightning and thunder and sounds, and there was a great earthquake. Like there never was since there were human beings on earth, so great an earthquake there occurred. And that great city was split for the three of them. Okay, 1619. It's Berlin. Yeah. Probably talking about later on when it was split into East Berlin, West Berlin, etc. Maybe. And a great hail, heavy like talents, fell from the sky over humanity. So something dropped from the sky, a great hail, heavy like talents. Those are Greek coins, right? And those, that's who he's comparing it to. Fell from the sky over humanity, and those people blasphemed. They talked nonsense and rubbish against God, cursing Him probably because of the punishment, the wrath of that hail, of that great plague. For great was its striking power indeed. Okay, so that was talking about bombs. It's a new age of warfare, World War II. Because that was great, it's beating too much. That's the idiomatic construction, because the ancient scribes, etc., had a funny way of expressing themselves, right, compared to our Western way of expressing ourselves. Even though English does contain idioms, yeah, they can be quite twisty and hard to understand. Sometimes they don't mean what we think they mean. But that there is a prophecy, okay, that happened, that was fulfilled, whereas compared to this Greek, Koine Greek translated into English, they haven't gone deep explaining it. Probably do somewhere inside the book, but you got to go search with it, I suppose. Yeah, it's basically pretty close. I mean, it doesn't go that deep. Okay, and then you've got Revelations chapter 17, where Babylon the Great, okay, and the false church and city sits on 7 hills. It's destroyed by an enemy that really hates it, and it's seen no more. Its trade is useless, etc., etc. That's yet to come. A world empire that's been built, been constructed between, when was this published about? Translated and published into book Bible format. Aramaic New Testament, Disciples New Testament, around about 2015. So from that date onwards, it's to 2021 now, going to 2022. This world empire, supposedly the Soviet Union and satellite states, possibly, from what I can understand, communism arises and attacks this false church, the city that's sitting on 7 hills, etc., etc., destroys it totally, and then it, Daniel, the statue Daniel saw in his vision, and he translated that dream of Nebuchadnezzar, of a great white stone hitting the feet, destroying the feet, made of mud, a mix of mud and clay, and the particles being scattered to around the world, throughout the world, by a great wind, which is, signifies Christ's kingdom, God's kingdom coming to earth. And the world empires, everything's gone. Okay. Total destruction, etc., etc. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully that's giving you some great insight on these supposed translation of Westcott and Hort and the New World Translation, so that you know before you poo-poo it and give the JWs a hard time. Okay, they do have some wacky ideas coming from the very top, probably. The Watchtower Tower, or Watchtower organisation. Yeah, the heads of it. Okay, but yeah, not a Jehovah Witness, but was influenced by them years ago. One particular guy that visited, I was like amazed by his knowledge, etc., and wanted to be like him. So I guess my passion for the truth about the scriptures, etc., came from that guy. Okay, the people around me poo-poo them and says, "I don't bring them around here because they're the devil," all that sort of stuff. But that's propagandic, you know, like people trying to destroy the competition, the opposition, to establish themselves at the top of the ladder, kick everybody else off. You know, we're the one, we're the only one, we're the chosen ones. You know, all the rest of the devil. Yeah, they're all basically, they're all human beings. They just maybe just got some error in their doctrines and dogmas. So yeah, do your personal research before you poo-poo them and stuff. It's that old scripture, something like remove speck from your own eye before you try to take that plank of wood out of your brother's eye, or anyone else's eye for that matter. You know what you're talking about by doing your personal research, have that experience. You know, a different approach. You spend time with them, you talk with them, and you, in a loving way, you know, in a nice way, you show them the error of their ways, okay, according to the original manuscripts, i.e. the Aramaic Galilean, New Testament, okay, in the original language, hidden and preserved for 2,000 years, etc., etc. It's a different way. It's not like yelling, you know, at the top of your lungs out in the street and then calling someone a cracker or a fag or whatever, or effeminate or whatever, you know. Because how are you supposed to convince to convert? You know, if you're going to be like that, it's going to, the hatred will grow, right? Because you get too personal. Okay. Some people say, "Oh, we hit them hard with the scriptures because that's how it is. God said, you know, you can't be this, you can't be that." Yeah, fair enough, but you know, they're human beings at the end of the day. So yeah, explain it to them. You may convert that person on the spot, not because you're like trying to climb down their throat and calling them names and stuff, mocking them and stuff. That's why you get a bad rep. Okay, so hopefully this is a great insight for you. I think we'll leave it there. Subscribe to our channel, add your comments if you like this in-depth video, and please leave your comments down below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible, because all comments are appreciated. And you go tell your Christian, Jewish, religious friends, hey, look at this. It's yeah, the New World Translation is probably not that bad. Westcott and Hort aren't occultists, or you know, sucking up to the devil or whatever people are claiming. Here's the history, okay, from the horse's mouth, so to say, from people that spent time with them, you know, and verified that they were legit, etc., etc., and other people who've done the research, okay, whether they're JWs or non-JWs, you know, they've taken the time to do their personal research, know what they're talking about before they, you know, blurt it all out there and just basically telling a whole lot of rubbish, you know, that because someone else has said it, oh yeah, it must be true, because they're too lazy to do their own personal research. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, set that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our deep, inciting, our deep, insightful videos. Go deep, we go deep, and bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And a big shout out to all our loyal subscribers sticking with us. We really appreciate you.